but your parents were missionaries.
Correct.
And that kind of opened up other travel ventures for you when you were young. Talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in South Chicago Heights. When I was 3, family moved down to Clearwater, Florida. When I was 9 or 10, we went to Suriname, South America. Was there for a year, back to the States for the year, and then back to Suriname for a year. And then with the mission, we stayed. Basically, I was getting closer to high school, so they wanted to be able to kind of stay in one place, so I could go all 4 years of high school in one place. So did a year in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, and then 4 years in Lakehurst, New Jersey. And then after that, I moved back to Clearwater, Florida, worked for a few years. My parents went to England. I joined the Air Force. I had 6 months delayed enlistment before I could go in for the job that I wanted. So I lived in England for 6 months. Came back, went into the Air Force, went through training. I went in for carpentry and welding. And then Sacramento for 2 years, Japan for 3 years. While I was in Japan was when I really started to actually play volleyball. So we played 6 days a week. On our off day, we would play on our own. I did, on our base team, went to Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, South Korea, and then all through Japan playing in tournaments, representing our base. And then decided to get out of the Air Force after 5.5 years. Moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then decided to go back to school, use my GI Bill. So I went to Newman University in Wichita, Kansas, and that kind of catches us up.
You're 41. Wow. How did I make all those stops? You ever think about that as you were just talking about this?
Right. It's kind of funny because now, you go through life and your parents raise you and all that, but you don't really it's nice now to be able to go back and talk with them and kind of get their perspective of when you were growing up. And my mom thought going to Suriname, South America was probably the worst thing for me because I wasn't around. I mean, I was homeschooled the first year we were there. I was really the only American kid in our whole city. And she was like, I've stunted his development and all this stuff. And those was probably the best time of my life. For a kid, you're basically living in the jungle, and I mean, everything's an adventure every day. It was awesome.
You're going to have a young team this year. You go from being an assistant to now the head coach, and I guess at the same time trying to put your own mark on the program and bring the players in that you want.
I think it's always an interesting situation when you come into a program and most of the kids aren't the kids that you recruited. So it takes a little while to make that connection with them, and every coach does things differently. So just getting them on board and going in the direction that you want the program to go in. So with this year, we will be very young, but all of them are pretty much my recruits except for 4. So
and don't want to put you on the spot, but some names that'll make up your volleyball team for this year.
Yeah. Well, like I tell all of our recruits and even all the girls that came in, we go with best player plays. My job is to bring in the best athletes I can. Their job is to win their spot.
It's your season coming up. It kind of sounds like it'll a work in progress, but just because you're young and you'll have many different lineups trying to find the right combos, and it all leads up going into conference play. But aside from the regular conference opponents, how about some of the other teams that you may have of note on your schedule this year?
Right. Yeah. Normally with the young team, you'd probably go with an easier schedule. Didn't quite work out that way. We're playing a pretty tough schedule. So we'll play Lenore Ryan out of conference, Lander out of conference, Augusta State, Montevallo, Tusculum, Anderson. So we have some pretty tough competition outside of our already tough conference. So it'll be good. It'll be a good test for him. And I was thinking about that actually last night. I think it'll be a very good foundation for the level of play that we need to play to be good in our region.